Well, hello and welcome to me commenting on the recent drama around pirate software. Now, I'll be honest, I haven't done this before. This is kind of a first time for me. So, as this is getting a lot of attention and I'm probably a couple days late, I figured I would go ahead and comment on it because to me, the entire scenario has gone from ridiculous to more ridiculous to ultra ridiculous. So in typical fashion, what we will do is we will watch the clip first. Then I will watch I'm just going to play the clip in its entirety, and I'm not going to pause it. We're not going to comment it, just to show you what happened in case you're out of the know. Then I'm going to play the clip again, and I'm going to point out exactly why this went wrong. And at the beginning of the clip, you can already see this has gone way out of line. So first off, you have 5 Mistifs right here. This is not good. This is probably a double pull. I couldn't find a clip before this of what led to this colossal mistake, because this already is a double pull. So we're already in a big mistake of this is an already GTFO situation. You should not be here. If you're in a hardcore situation, you are leaving. This is already a point where this is okay, the only way to get out of this is to run to the beginning of the instance. So we need to run to the beginning of the instance, reset everything, and start over. This is already that moment right here. Let's see if they arrive at the correct conclusion.
Boss is coming too, watch out.
Yeah. Well, I got shield wall. God
Run.
damn it. Just run. Can you target dummy?
I can target him, yeah. Should I do it?
Just kill the massive. Yeah, target dummy. Kill the massives.
No.
Also, are you fine? Any grenades,
I
anything?
got last stand.
Heal him!
Yeah, you just heal me. Just come back a little bit.
Boss is on me, sitting bear form.
Snappy, just run.
I can help a lot. Yeah.
Pirate, why are you walking, bro?
What are you talking about? Why am
This
I
is
walking? Look at that,
savageable. Come on,
Innervate
man.
you?
Just kill the mastiffs.
Innervate.
Use Nova, bro. Come
Kill the
on.
mastiffs. We got
Heals.
this. In a sense of.
War something? War some
Do
now?
you see my mana? What am I supposed to do for you?
Just kill the mastiffs. One shot. Okay, we
More
can
than
shot.
the way, more than the
Ice
way.
now. The mastiffs can be ice novas.
Now we're gonna wait.
Nasara.
No.
Okay. So in the end, that's the clip. Sarah dies and Snuppy dies, and I believe Oxyfell actually manages to get out, so there's 2 dead. Alright, so now that you see, I had to really hold my tongue because there were a lot of bad decisions that led up to this moment. First, and we're going to go back to the beginning, and we're going to watch it again, and I'm going to comment this time. I wanted you to see the whole clip in full, and now I'm going to explain to you. We already know that they should already be leaving at this point. This is already a cut your losses, get out, no salvage, you're done. This is a you're done moment. This is not, you're not playing regular World of Warcraft where it's like, oh, well, if we wipe, it's no big deal. This is hardcore. So at this point, with this getting so messed up, you're done. You're done, you're leaving, you're booking it to the instance, you're doing everything you can to slow kite these mobs so you can get back to the safe part of the dungeon, which is outside of it. So let's watch, and I'm going to go through everything that they do wrong.
Boss is coming too, watch out.
Yeah.
Okay, so here the boss is coming. Whoever pulled this already pulled this wrong because they're fighting this collection of mobs where the boss can patrol into. So this pull, on top of it being clearly a double pull, clearly you got Mastiffs, a Mage Lord, and a Brute, is already in the wrong spot where they're also going to get the boss. So this is already a comedy of errors, and it's going to lead to cascade failure. Technically, the clip started a cascade failure, but it's going to get even more. It's going to cascade even more. Okay? Let's continue.
Yeah. Well, I got shield wall. God
Run.
damn it.
Okay, so now they have made the call to run. Once you make the call to run can't be unmade. There's no salvaging a call to run. There's nothing. You just run. Because again, you have to remember, you trying to save 3 minutes of running outside the instance is causing you to lose your classic hardcore character, and then you have to start from level 60. That's the stakes here. I run out of the instance. We all run out of the instance, rather. Everybody should live. Or we try to salvage something like this, and then it just ends up in disaster and people die. And again, this is the mentality that people forget in hardcore. The go again is not you get your corpse and try again. It's that you get to level up to 60, you get to gear up again, and you hope you make it here again to screw up here again. So again, the call to run has been made. We are 8 seconds in. Everybody should be doing their best ability to leave the instance and basically try the pull again. Or if I was in this group, I would just leave. Clearly, the people pulling, and again, it's very easy for me to quarterback this, but like, how did this pull happen? This is a terrible pull. Why are you pulling this? And again, unfortunately, I don't have the clip that led to this, but this is a disaster. Your tank clearly doesn't know how to pull in a hardcore fashion. You're probably playing like you have more gear than your characters actually do. All right, let's continue.
Just run. Can you target dummy?
Okay, the call for the target dummy, so everybody should be retreating at this point.
Should I do it?
Just kill the massive. Yeah, target dummy. Kill the massives.
No.
Okay, here's the next mistake. Now you're giving contradictory commands. Now somebody is saying, kill the Mastiff. What does killing the Mastiff get you here? You've called run, you run. That's it. You can slow the Mastiff, you can slow them, root them, and stuff like that, because they're normal mobs, you can do that to them. But you don't get to uncall, run. All you are doing at this point is injecting chaos into this. Because now you've given a clear directive, run, and now you're conflating that clear directive with, oh, let's kill some of the monsters. Never do that. You need to have very clear communication. And once run is called, there's no uncalling run. And I'm going to explain this in the way that I know I can explain it best. If you and 4 of your friends are sitting in a movie theater, and you say, you know what, if there's a fire in the movie theater, we're all going to leave, okay? And one of your friends says, I see smoke, fire, and then, so your one friend, who's Pirate Software, he's already out the door. He's gone, he said, you know what, I'm not a fireman, I'm out. Then one of the other guys says, oh no, it's not that big of a fire, let's go get the fire extinguisher, we can be firemen. And we already know how that's going to play out. Now, obviously, fortunately, this is not for 5 friends in a movie theater, but that's the kind of mentality that's going on here. Somebody wants to play hero, and everybody, but they've already given the command to quit. And guess what? When you play hero, there's only one way, there's only one heroic thing that's going to happen here. And that's the heroic sacrifice.
Any grenades? Anything?
I got last stand.
And again, now we're calling for things that are meaningless.
Snuppy, just run.
I can help lot. Yep.
Pirate, why are you walking, bro?
What are you talking about? Why am
This
I
is
walking? Look at my
savage,
mana.
but come on,
Did I
man.
bait you?
Just kill the man.
Now here is the second miscommunication. This is salvageable. This is absolutely, in no reality is this salvageable. Anybody who said this was salvageable, again, your mage is already halfway in Narnia because he heard run and he did what he was told to do, which is run. He's already out the door almost. Now you're telling him to stop running, come back, and try and do something. It's not going to happen. At best, they're trying to get Pirate Software killed.
Innovate.
You snowball, bro. Come
Kill the
on.
mastiffs. We got this.
Heals.
In the sense of
War something? War something
You
else?
see my mana? What am I supposed to do for you?
just kill the mastiffs. One shot. Okay, we
More
can
than the
shot
one way, more than the
right
way.
now. The massives can be ice novas.
Dead, I'm dead, I'm dead.
Now we're gonna wait.
Nusara?
No.
And then that's basically it. Basically, they try to salvage it. They get the priest killed by making this call, so Sarah's going to be dead. And then the druid, who I heard made this whole thing into a mess. Like, I didn't see... I think he pulled something else somewhere else. I don't really know exactly, because they did pull another guy, I think. Oh, no, sorry, I'm wrong. This is still the brute and the ogre mage, and this is, of course, the boss. Okay, like, there's no reality in hardcore WoW where you want to fight 2 packs and the boss at the same time. None. Because, again, what are you risking? You're risking your character for a dumb pull. The boss isn't going to drop bonus loot if you kill him with 2 extra pulls. That's not how it works. The boss drops the same loot every time. And so, that's my commentary on how what happened here, how it was a breakdown in communication, and everybody's blaming Pirate Software because he's the one who listened. He's the one who said, run. He heard run, and he was like, okay, if they call run, we're just supposed to run. There's no, well, maybe let's fight, maybe this, no, you leave. That's it, you leave. And honestly, I will say this, why are you in here without Petri? Now, again, I'll be honest, I don't play hardcore. I don't know at this is phase 2, what the status of Petri is. But I can't imagine Petri is so expensive that it's worth it to just dump your character, to basically flush your character down the trash. Because what should have happened here is when Sarah was already screwed, this is, I think, her psychic scream, that she should have Petried. The druid should have Petried, and they should have dropped group and got hearthed out. That's what I understand how Petri works, but there's no reason they could have Petried and got out, and they would have been ported to the graveyard, everything would have been fine. Honestly, that's another thing. I don't know why everybody wasn't dropping group. Because one of the things you should do in a situation like this when run is called is drop group, because even if you don't make it running to the instance, you can still survive by getting kicked out to the graveyard. So again, this is a classic, and again, maybe I'm wrong with that, because I haven't played classic hardcore, but I thought the appropriate strategy when run was called is not only do you run, which clearly was somehow missed here, is that you drop group and you graveyard out. So now we're going to get into the funner part. So I don't have anything fancy, but I wanted to try my free-handed drawing something here, because to me, what I was seeing here, the first thing I thought is this is like the Rocky movie, okay? So you got this first part of the movie, like the build-up, right? And this is everybody leveling, and then they kind of get, like, maybe this is a little too, actually, I should have started this line lower, hold on. This is like the build-up, right? This is probably like 40, people get their mounts, 50, 60. So it's not the climax, but it's up there. Then you got to start gearing, and you do molten core. I'm assuming they're doing molten core. I don't know. I don't know. Like, again, I don't know the timeline of hardcore classic. It's like, I don't like hardcore. I'm going to be very clear. I don't like hardcore games because hardcore online games, at least if you're running a game locally on your computer, that's hardcore. That's between you and God, you know? Sure, you can stream it, you can do all this stuff with it, but, you know, fundamentally, you shouldn't have any kind of server issue or anything like that. You know, it'll either work or it won't. Playing online games, when there's factors like effectively outside of your control, that's just not appealing to me. Like, even when hardcore in Diablo 2 was introduced, I didn't understand it. Because I was like, why would you want to risk your character and effectively lose your character over lag, disconnect, things you have no control over, right? So I never understood the appeal. Like, as an adult, I kind of get the appeal more because it's like the risk, the adrenaline rush of oh well, this terrible, and that's what I feel like a lot of the appeal of watching people stream hardcore WoW is. And again, it's very easy for me to be an armchair quarterback. I'm no different than the guy who's sitting there watching somebody who made, watching somebody do something in a sports game, something they do all the time. And again, it's a little different in World of Warcraft because it's not like the developers that are taking control of the monsters to try to kill you. So it's more, it's a much more controlled scenario. But it's there's still the risk, right? And at least, and the thing is, one of the things I'll give hardcore World of Warcraft over other games is there's not a lot of variance in hardcore World of Warcraft in terms of, like in Diablo, you could get a monster that was like a unique monster that was multi-shot lightning enchanted, and it could just wreck your character. And that's just like, that's effectively just bad luck, World of Warcraft doesn't really have that kind of luck scenario. So it's a little bit different in the fact that the pools, the monsters. There's not going to be more or less monsters spawning in the dungeon. It's always going to be the same route. It's always going to be the same pools. You're always going to pull the same locations. It's much more of a choreographed dance than, say, like Diablo 2, which was more like it's multi-shot lightning enchanted? Oh, let me save and exit. Anyways, like, I see this as like the montage, a training montage of them going from, like, we'll say this is like level 20, because really like 1 to 20, probably not really that interesting, to level 60. Then you start running dungeons, and of course this is where the stakes go even higher, and obviously right here's the peak, because this is the climax in Dire Maul where they got. And it doesn't get any more exciting than that, watching people fail in a high stress situation. It's just why what makes hardcore more entertaining than World of Warcraft is basically watching people forget what tools they have available, and then you can sit here like what I'm doing and Monday morning quarterback this all time. And I'll say it's really rich because I don't play hardcore World of Warcraft, so it's not like I'm like, oh yeah, well, I've run Dire Maul a million times in hardcore classic. And the thing is, if I was running Dire Maul in hardcore classic, it'd be very boring. It'd be extremely boring because I am very much a by-the-book player. A by-the-book player, don't take any unnecessary risk, do everything by the book, strictly no risk. And even when I played regular World of Warcraft, I was like that. In fact, my favorite memory of this was when we were doing, like, one of my friends wanted a title from, what was it? I can't think of the dungeon. I know the name of the dungeon. I mean, I don't know the name of the dungeon, but I can't think of the name of the dungeon. That's what I meant to say. It was in Cataclysm. There was a raid in Cataclysm, and they wanted the title from Blackwing Descent. I was thinking Blackrock Depths, and I'm like, I know it's not BRD. It was B something D, and it was Blackwing Descent. And so in Blackwing Descent, we were already geared through. This is when it was in Dragon Soul, so the raid was pretty easy right now. And I was such a by-the-book player, like there's an enrage, some of the trash does. I'm like, hey, soothe. You either had to soothe or trank shot the enrage. And I was very much a by-the-book player, like soothe. And one of the guys was very much a show-off. And he's like, oh, we don't need to do that. We're fine, blah, 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 blah. And I was in there with some of my guildies, and and don't get me wrong, they were good players. These were fundamentally very good players at the game. They weren't like bad players who thought they were good. No, they were good players, and they put up the numbers, okay? But I'm still a by-the-book player because, to me, you're not saving any time if it results in, like, somebody dying or something like this. Then we have to res them. So just do the pulls normally. Just do everything by the book, and then we get in and out as quick as possible. Anyways, we're doing all the bosses. None of the bosses are hard because we have Dragon Soul gear. We get to the last boss. Now, the last boss, they wanted to 2-heal. And fortunately, I was in there with one of my healers. And I told him no. I said, no, you are healing. I do not care what they want to do. We're not doing any kind of weird gimmick where one of them tries to run between the two platforms, because during the fight, you fight the dragons in the pit. The second phase is everybody gets to swim in the lava to these 3 pillars that come up. So even in a 10-man raid, the appropriate way to handle this mechanic is you have to have 3 healers, 1 healer on each platform, and then you basically do the intermission phase and then go back down and fight the dragon again. Something like that. I don't remember. It's been a while. But I remember the 3 platform thing. And anyways, he wanted to show off. This is one of his buddies, because he was a DPS. He was a DPS or tank. His other buddy was a healer. And I whispered my friend, I go, absolutely not, under no circumstance. I will literally quit this raid right now if you do not heal. And of course, they listen to me because they know I'm right. Fundamentally, I'm right, because we're supposed to do this by the book. The little extra damage that he would do doesn't mean anything if it results in us wiping. So anyways, in the middle of the encounter, the paladin bubbled, tried to swim over to our pillar where he was healing, because I didn't want to have an argument with them. But now you take that, and you take that as a content creator, I would be extremely boring in World of Warcraft Hardcore. Because I'll tell you right now, how I would approach Hardcore World of Warcraft is we would be leveling in a 5-man group. As 5 people is the maximum number of people you can have in a group without it becoming a raid. There's literally no reality, none, where I am leveling in any other fashion. Like 99% of the mistakes you see are because people are not playing in a group as a force multiplier. Again, if I'm trying to make content and make Hardcore WoW seem fun and exciting, me rolling in there with a 5-man group for everything is going to be extremely boring, especially if everybody listens to me and we all behave in a very boring way. It's just really going to be really boring content, because we would be like the safety dance club. So I realized that how I would approach things and how I would approach things as an entertainer are 2 separate realities, right? And I'm sure that's some of what we're seeing in the clip, right? Wanting to salvage the run and getting that moment, that would be an amazing for entertainment, but it's not amazing if it's you and your 4 friends, excuse me. There's no 6-man dungeons in World of Warcraft, who are just doing the dungeon casually and trying not to die. Anyways, that's why I don't play. That's the other reason why I don't play Hardcore, because I know what the stakes are, and the stakes require me to play in an extremely boring and extremely monotonous way, in an extremely tightly controlled team with extremely close communication, pulling and engaging monsters in a way that is fundamentally very boring, and what actually makes playing the game into much more of a test of endurance than a test of skill. Plus, I just don't have time. I don't have time to sit there and play the game at that level and do all that. That's just not. I just don't, and I don't have the time or the interest. I have a hard enough time keeping up with retail. Anyways, so what I think should happen, now back to the thing at hand. Now, of course, everybody's blaming Pirate Software for not doing his heroic sacrifice and him dying too. I think it's like, and when I say him dying, I mean his character dying in World of Warcraft. Some people have taken it a little too far, and we're not going to talk about that. But the reality is this. And again, I'm going to talk about, let me finish my Rocky thing. So then this is their fight with Creed. And basically, the guard, whatever his name is, I forgot his name, he is basically Apollo Creed here. And he has broken, and again, it's not exactly the same, but he has broken the team and basically defeated 2 of them. So this is like the climax, then this is the down point. And we're probably right about here now, where we're having drama about Pirate Software, he's the bad guy. That's basically where we're at. Okay? Now, there's 2 separate routes I could see this going. And I'm going to explain the 2 different routes. One is, here's the reality. If you're Pirate Software and your 4 friends actually blame you, then the reality is the offering you should give them is say, hey, it wasn't worth me dying too. I understand you lost your character. I'm a mage, so here's what I can do is I can help you level your characters back up. So if everybody agreed that Pirate Software was wrong and he did this terrible thing, fine. You know, if it's between you and your 4 friends, that's how you would handle it. What you would see is Pirate Software would take his 60, and we used to call this power questing back in the day. The 4 of them, 2 of them would re-roll, would be Sarah would remake her priest, the druid would remake his druid, assuming he wants to make a druid. I'm assuming that they want replacements that are the same character. Okay, then the other 2 guys who have at this point been, depending on their level of guilt, right, have been deemed as not guilty. I would say that their sentence is that they both make mages, so that they can, if this happens again, they now have a second character to come help this group out. So the group becomes Pirate Software with a 60. We're just going to call him PS because I don't want to write out Pirate Software. No, we're going to do this. We're going to do it the right way. Hold on. Let me make this bigger. Hold on, I have to move my microphone. And that's what we do. This is the new group. Now, this is an exciting content because a level 60 can basically nullify any of the risk. And basically, they can go open world quest, and basically, Pirate Software basically escorts them until that they get to probably, I would say, 45. And then at 45, Pirate Software actually leaves the group. And because I think 45 is when monsters are green to Pirate Software is 60. And Pirate Software then leave the group and then help them kill the monsters outside a group so they get full XP. So it basically becomes Pirate Software's escort quest until they get to 45, and then he continues the escort quest just out of the group until they hit 60. That's the not Hollywood solution, right? Very boring. You get this. They would go through the same arc. Right here, this is the training montage, except this time, instead of it being Pirate Software, instead of being like all of them leveling, it's Pirate Software is now sentenced to escorting them. Personally, that's the proper solution, but I feel like that's a very boring solution. So I'm going to propose the actual solution. Is that what we need to have happen I'm not going to say actual, I'm going to say the dramatic solution. Is what we need to have happen is we need to have a trial, okay? And this is the fanciful Hollywood solution that would never work between you and your friends. I'll make this bigger. So rather than this, which is the very gentleman agreement, right? Where Pirate Software has been deemed guilty and he agrees to help everybody get back to 60. And not only that, the 2 people assuming that they were deemed not guilty also get to go along for the ride because, again, a group is 5, so you might as well take 5 for a ride. Instead of that, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to say this is what they should do. And again, I don't know all the big names, but we're going to do this. You need to find a judge. And I don't know who the impartial judge should be. It can't be Ampy. Ampy's already weighed in on this. I mean, if you want a judge that's going to be as impartial as possible, you can have me, but I've already weighed in on this, so I'm not really... I could adjudicate something according to rules, but look. There's classes of streamers, right? And there's Thor. There's Asmon. There's Emmy. There's Miz. There's your parents. Oh, my handwriting looks pretty nice for doing this. There's your dog. There's your dog food. There's your special sock. And then under all of this, there's me. So I don't have enough weight to be judge. But somebody needs to, they need to come through. And probably what I would say is that the group, Thor, Snuppy, I don't know everybody else. I think it was Snuppy. Everybody else, they have to vote on a judge. And they should have some, like, I assume that the jury would be drawn from OnlyFangs, right? Not OnlyFans, OnlyFangs. I almost said it wrong. Whoops. What's that? All right. Well, now I've run out. Hold on. I have to give myself another screen here. Okay, so now we have the trial. So you have the judge, whoever they all vote for. So they might have to have multiple rounds of voting. Because, so for example, let's say out of the 5 of them, they all pick a different judge. Okay. Well, that's going to be problematic. You're never going to solve that. But they should, somehow they're going to have to narrow the pool down. I don't know the best way of voting to do this. I mean, I do. It's approval voting. Basically, what you would do is you'd have all 5 of them vote in secret for who they approve to be the judge. And then whichever judge gets the most approval votes, that becomes the judge. Okay? Then you have the jury. And the jury, how I feel like, could be selected from the people that have... So you'd probably want a jury of, I'm going to say, 9 people. So it should be the 9 next people that do the approval vote. And if you don't know what the approval vote is... Basically, very simply, you get a list of names. Like we're going to say, we're just going to call this, let me use some real people. We're going to say like Asmon, Emmy, Ms., and I don't know who else is in OnlyFangs. This is my, I do content and I don't know people, but that's the same in real life as I exist in real life and I don't know anybody. And you would either vote, and then it's either I approve or I don't approve. This is the best way to handle this kind of vote, and whoever has the highest approval percentage becomes the judge. The next highest 9 become the jury. And the reality is we could even weight the jury, which I think would be kind of fun. Is that you give the jury that's chosen, you give them like 60% of the say, right? And then you give the viewers like 40%, right? And so there's some infrastructure you have to set up here. Basically, you have to have some kind of way of having a vote. And this is how you can turn it into like a media, because basically, what are we trying to do? We're trying to recreate the O.J. Simpson trial and turn this into a media circus, right? Everybody wins with a media circus. So you get your approval voting, you figure out who your judge is. Hopefully you get a good judge, but a bad judge could be just as entertaining, right? A bad judge just rules against Thor and all that, causes drama, would be probably even more entertaining than a boring judge like me, who's like, okay, we're going to do this thing by the book. But this is kind of the terms you have to come up with. Then you basically put everybody on trial that survived. You put Pirate Software on trial. You put Oxy, whatever his name is. And you put the rogue, whoever the hell he was in. You know, I probably should have written everybody's names down, but it doesn't really matter. This format can be used for any kind of thing. We're looking for a public opinion trial by fire. And you put them all on trial. And again, they have to do this in their World of Warcraft characters. So whoever the judge is, he has to be on his World of Warcraft characters. They're hordes, so they have to find a place in Orgrimmar and do it all in Orgrimmar and make a whole production out of this in a Discord call And the judge in the Discord call has to have the power to basically move people and mute people. Because you know there's going to be chaos and people trying to get in things, and that's going to be part of the fun, right? The judge is muting people, and so they're talking on their stream. Nobody can hear them on the judge's stream, and it'd be great. And then once the trial concludes, it's either a guilty verdict, and in this case, it can be levels of guilt, right? So we have to kind of come up with a rating system. Like guilty over 90%. So like if everybody agrees you're guilty, then what happens is one of the people who died gets to level a character to level 10 and do a mukra against your character. I think that's what it's called. Whatever the death match is against your character, and you don't get to fight back. So you just have to sit there at level 60 and let the level 10 kill you. And of course, you stream it and broadcast it to the world, and that's what you need to do. And then, like, let's say 80% is maybe you have to give like a gold, you have to give up some gold, you have to agree to level them to a certain level and stuff like that. And then it just like the penalty, I don't know what the ideal penalty volcano, I only know what the top is. The top is just letting them kill your character on stream with a level 10 character. I don't know how reasonable that is, but maybe you have to get higher than level 10. I don't know exactly how that can happen, but that to me is what the goal should be. Whether it's you have to sit there and spam sit so they crit you from behind until they finally kill you, they got to do it. Maybe it has to be higher than level 10 then, for it to be in a reasonable fashion, maybe level 30 or something like that. But that's the idea, is you're so guilty, you have to let them kill your character. And that is your penance. Now again, this is the streamer version where you turn all this to content with your friends, just have the mage level you. And everybody gets to vote and weigh in on everybody's guilt. Because I don't feel, and again, I feel like everybody is at least somewhat guilty in this. It's not exclusive. And even, and if they're not, and again, I would say Pirate Software is probably not very guilty at all, to be honest. I think he's like if we're assigning blame, and in this group you have a minimum of 20% blame because you're a fifth of the group, I would say Pirate Software is probably at 25, maybe 30%. But it's even hard for me to give him that because I don't know the rules of engagement of how they started this dungeon. But I will give him that much guilt simply because if they didn't have very clear communications for rules of engagement with the dungeon, he's guilty for just not calling them out on that. So that's where his 5 to 10% is. Because I really don't see him as that guilty. I see this as a, we think we're better than we are, and the mobs are like, no, you're not. And then they go smoosh. But, and again, I would say, like, whoever said, like, let's stay and fight, this is salvageable. They are probably, even if they died, they're probably like 50%. They're like 50% of the problem right there. So I guess Pirate can't be 25%, because right there, the person who said, like, run, wait, let's salvage, and I don't think it's the same person. I'm sorry, I don't know everybody's personality here, but I'm gonna tell you right now, whoever said, oh, we gotta run, and then we gotta fight, that they are at least 50% guilty, like, or whoever called to stay and fight. And this is my problem, like, I don't know all the streamers, I know some of the names, I don't know, I'm not, I don't know all the players, so I can't really say who's to blame, but whoever said let's salvage this probably has 50% of the blame, which means, okay, they've taken 30% of the blame, at least from everybody else in the group. So it's hard for me to say Pirate Software even has 25% of the blame, because he has 20% of the blame just by being in the group. But with 30%, assuming this 30% was stolen evenly from everybody, that puts him at 12.5% at best. And then he could only have more blame if somehow somebody else was even less blamed in the group. And I don't feel like anybody was less blamed. Like, the only person, and again, I don't know who called to salvage. The person that I feel like has the least amount of blame is probably Sarah. Because whoever they are, they sat there and tried to heal everybody and get everybody out at the cost of their life. And that at least is how it looks to me. So you could take some of their blame and assign it to Pirate Software, I guess. So maybe they're like 8% to blame for just being in the group in the first place. And so that puts Pirate Software at like 17% of the blame. But again, that's just ridiculous. And again, and part of the problem is, and we're going to open up another thing here. And this is another reason why I don't play hardcore, because I know the basic layout here. I'm going to do like the basic layout. This is like, all right, well, this is a little more square. Hold on, more rectangular. I went a little too far. A little too far again. This is about where the death zone was. This is where everybody started dying, was this run here, I think. Part of the reason why I wouldn't be any fun to do hardcore with is because we would be so meticulous in how we did every dungeon. We come in here and, you know, I don't know the mob layout here because I'll be honest, I haven't run like actually. I ran a lot of Dire Maul back in the day. I don't remember what the layout is now, but I would be extremely methodological about how I pulled everything. Like if there's a patrol from here to here, yeah, we're pulling that patrol because you have to keep your exits clean in hardcore. This is what I mean why it wouldn't be any fun, because I would be like, okay, we're going to surgically do this dungeon, do all the pulls correctly, we're going to do everything in the absolute correct way, and that's how we're going to clear the dungeon. And we're not going to do anything that could potentially lead to a situation like this, which means all the exits need to be cleaned, mobs need to be pulled back, you want to pull them away, you want to pull them to safe areas, stuff like that. Stuff that, like, the reality is, to me, pulling a dungeon that way, it looks good from an execution standpoint. Like, it would be very cleanly, very boringly executed. So, like, the execution would be really clean. And I don't mean the execution of my teammates, because we're all going to be good players. And again, it's very rich of me to say this, having not played hardcore, because, like, again, I have fundamental problems with the whole nature of hardcore. But again, I don't see that as entertaining. If we come in here, and again, I don't remember where all the patrols are, but I think there's like a patrol at the beginning, 2 of them, and we pull this patrol, pull back here. Pull this patrol, pull back here. Okay, we got the patrols out. Okay, we're going to pull this group, we're going to pull back here. And we pull everything in a very methodical way. It's very boring. And not only that, it becomes like and the more we do it, the more it just becomes this, and that's how Classic was to me, is it just becomes this, it's like a rotation through the dungeon, right? You have a rotation for your abilities, and you have a rotation through the dungeon, and you basically just do the same pulls over and over again, every time, pulled the same way, pulled the same back, and you do all this stuff over and over and over again until every dungeon is just executed in the proper manner. And that's not a lot of risk, right? You know, imagine you're in here for some reason, like let's say it's 4 of you, you're helping gear a 5th person. And let's say you all have Blackwing layer gear. Executing these dungeon pulls like this is very boring and very safe. But that's how I would play hardcore. And that's why I don't play hardcore. Well, first off, again, let's pretend I had all the time in the world. I'd have to find 4 other people with the patient mentality that I do to level and do everything with. And that's not fun. That's, from a content level, that's not fun. So, and I'm not saying I would do everything for content, but I mean, it's just, that's why I don't play. That's always been my problem with hardcore games. Hardcore games force me into a mentality where you want to take the absolute minimum risk, because the risk you are wagering is all the hours you've spent in your character. So if you're risking all the hours you spent in your character, you have to build something that hedges the bets to alleviate the maximal number of risk, the maximal amount of risk. So that means doing all quests in a 5-man group, doing all quests with the Holy Trinity. So like if I was building a hardcore group, I'm going to say we're going to have a warrior. He's going to be the tank. And he's never going to try to DPS. He's not going to do anything funny. He's going to be 100% focused on being a defensive tank, because the reality is the stakes in hardcore are you need to survive and you need to control the mobs. We don't care about your DPS because these are most of the time going to be normal level monsters. Then we're going to have 3 DPS. And so one would be a mage. I think I would have one that could off-heal. Off-heal or innovate. So maybe a feral druid? I don't know how I feel about a feral druid. Yeah, I guess probably a feral druid. Just because they could off-tank, they could off-heal, and they could innovate in an emergency. We're gonna hold on. So they would be primarily off-tank focused, which again, boring. Because now effectively we have a tank that's fully a tank. Then we have a druid that's spec'd as an off-tank to make sure that nothing goes awry. Then we have a mage, of course, because again, if you have a tank off-tank, the goal should be for the mage to be able to AoE things down. What would be the third DPS? I think I would be extremely boring, and I think I'd pick a enhancement shaman? No. I don't think elemental shamans are viable in Classic. I have to look. I like the idea of a shaman. I'll be honest, it's just I haven't played... I played original when it came out. I'll look at Wowhead's tier list. I'm not bringing it up. I'm just going to read it. Mage and Hunter, yeah, that's why you have a mage. Warlock is considered A. Really? Rogue, Druid, Shaman are B. Priest, Paladin is C. And Warrior is D. Well, Warrior is S and R's because he's going to be the tank. I mean, I might even be boring and say to a second mage. But I'd rather have variety. And again, we're trying to build a group that's not built around DPS, but built around survivability. And so I don't see, the thing is, the Hunter and the Warlock are great because their pets can off-tank. But I don't know. No, okay. No, I actually take that back. We're going to have a Shadow Priest. Alright, I'm having difficulty lining my fingers up with the keys. Almost had it. We're having a Shadow Priest. I wanted to have a Shaman instead of a Shadow Priest, but the thing is, the types of characters that do well in leveling are characters that their damage doesn't depend on their gear. So Mage, Feral Druid, and Shadow Priest, none of their gear increases their damage directly. Like, obviously, gear with Int and Stamina gives the Mage more mana and gives them more hit points. And same thing with the Shadow Priest. But that doesn't really increase their damage. That's not a thing until, I think, Cataclysm. So the reality is, you want to have most of your DPS that just get their ability to get their damage from their skills. It's no different than in, like, Diablo 2. Why does everybody play a Blizzard Sword? Because all the damage comes from the skills. You don't have to get a good weapon to be a good Blizzard Sword in D2. So it's the same thing here. You want to have classes that innately do well. And this can be off heal. So obviously, again, and they have fear and some other stuff. And then finally, you want a healer, which is one Holy Priest. And this is how I would quest. And this would be very boring. This is what I would consider the correct way to play Hardcore Classic, but, like, it's also very boring. You're always rolling everywhere with a 5-man. You always have these classes, and you all level together. And this, of course, isn't even getting into the fact that, you know, how do I find 4 other people that have the same schedule as me? The reality is we don't know, you know, the reality is it probably could happen at the start when everybody's, like, really pumped to play. You probably could do something like this. Probably could get away with this. But this would be my, and then we would do everything as a group. But this wouldn't be fun. This would, like, I think this would probably be cool to watch occasionally, but this wouldn't really be fun in terms of, like, it wouldn't be, like, if you're a content creator, you're never going to do this because there's no risk. This is a no risk group. Maybe you swap, maybe somebody will come in here and say, I wouldn't have a feral druid, I'd have a whatever. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, rolling everywhere in World of Warcraft in, you know, doing what effectively are solo quests in a group of 5, it's easy. You're never going to have any risk of dying. And, I really did want a shaman in there, though. But again, so here's how you and your boys would deal with it. Here's how we should deal, how I hope they deal with it, is we go to trial. And finally, this is why I don't play hardcore, because I would be very boring. I mean, this is not the sole reason. This is the part. I mean, the biggest reason is because I see hardcore modes in any video game as an exercise in mitigating risk. So I mean, this is how I would do it. By building a team like this is how I mitigate risk. So this isn't fun. Like, this is basically me min-maxing how to be the most survivable possible. You know? And then again, like I tell you, every dungeon, and I don't know that I would be the tank, but I'd probably be the tank. Just because I want to make sure that I have, but I mean, again, that ultimately means that it's up to me if things fall apart, because I'm the one doing the pulls, I'm the one making the call, I'm the one doing all that. So it's ultimately would put a lot of responsibility on my shoulders, but this would be how I would do everything. And again, it'd be extremely boring. So boring. And also, like, it would be hard to have everybody on the same schedule. That's another thing I feel like would be hard. And this doesn't even account for things that need to be done in downtime. So, for example, you do need to level your defensive skills, which means you need to just get hit, which means you need to go, at some point we would have to, like, because if the warrior's tanking everything, his defensive skill will be maxed. So at some point, everybody needs to get together and effectively let low-level mobs beat on them so they have defense, because it's actually really important to keep your defense skill up. Because what happens is, if you don't have your defense skill up, that time when things fall apart that much worse now, because you haven't been leveling up your defense skill. So now you're getting crushing blow and dazed by monsters that really shouldn't be able to do that to you. So it takes what could be a salvageable situation and makes it that much worse. And again, that's even more boring. Like, oh, okay, let me go to Trithfall Glades and let me go pick a fight with some monster, and now let me go and drink a troll's blood potion or whatever and wait until my defense gets leveled up. I don't know if there's a critter that would fight you. So you might be able to pick a fight with a critter that does 1 damage a hit, or a group of critters, where basically they're hitting you for only 1 damage. I don't know really a great place for that. And then while you're getting hit, you basically just level your defense, and you could do it pretty passively if you're getting hit while you have a Troll's Blood or some kind of regen potion on, which isn't really. Again, if you do everything by the book, it's very boring. It would look well executed in a sense, but it's also not relatable, right? Nobody in WoW Classic outside of like a streamer is gonna like build a group that does all this kind of stuff. I mean, I would, because again, I'm gonna mitigate risk. That's what hardcore is. That's why I don't like playing hardcore. Because basically, it requires me to change my entire mentality. And I have played hardcore. I played hardcore D2. And so, why I didn't like it was because, I would normally do things where I was undergeared. Okay, I guess I can't do it because I'm playing hardcore. Okay. Alright, so, I need to just level against the easy mobs. Okay, and that's how we played. And not only that, we played as a group. So we had like a necromancer, we had a paladin, I was a sorcerer. I didn't have my battle orders barb at that time, but you basically need a battle orders barb, you need a Heart of the Oak druid, you need probably another paladin, probably a couple different elemental sorceresses. So I think I was a fire sorc, so you'd want a fire sorc, you'd want a conviction paladin, you'd want a blizzard sorc, and you probably maybe even a lightning sorc. But again, I'm basically building the strongest team in Diablo 2 to effectively make sure that in any scenario, we'd want 3 paladins, because the 3rd paladin be the salvation paladin. That's his job. He doesn't do anything but run salvation so that everybody has good resistances. And it's very, very boring. But that's why I don't play hardcore. Because you instead of going offense and like, oops, I went to offense, I'll have to remember to not do that again. It becomes, okay, I have to play so defensively that, la-da-da-da-da, la-da-da-da-da. Okay, I'm killing monsters really slow, but nobody can hurt me. And that's how I would play it. And that's why, like, again, with my force multiplier group here, this is why. That's why, and I don't even know that we would even do dungeons. Because the problem with doing dungeons in Classic is that they start, like let's say that I think Wailing Cavern starts at like 15, and it ends up at like 23. Right? And at that's a pretty, like, hard ramp at that time. Right, that's a pretty big ramp to go up 8 levels. So for me to want to do the dungeon, I would want the 23 mobs to be green to me. But if the 23 mobs are green to me, the 15 mobs are gray to me. If the 15 mobs are gray to me, why am I here? Why am I here? And so exactly, why am I here? We're not doing the dungeon. And that's actually one of the problems a lot of classic dungeons have, is that the entry level is here and the exit level is here. And so if you go into the dungeon at the appropriate level, you have to be extremely careful at the end. So it's better to overgear the dungeon, over level the dungeon. So you come in like around here or here, or, in my case, you come into the dungeon over here and you make sure that there's no risk, which is not fun. Well, it's fun for me because I can say, well, look, I can pass on a lot of judgment as being like, well, look, if you played it safely, you wouldn't have this problem. But anyways, this video has apparently become very long for a reaction video. But that's my take on all this, and that's why I don't play hardcore World of Warcraft. So I guess go ahead and flame me in the comments, I guess, for being a no-risk Andy, because that's what I see any hardcore game is how can I minimize risk? How can our team minimize risk? How can we eliminate all risk as much as possible. But that said, once again, as always, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to support my channel. And if you have any questions, feel free to say something in the comments. I do always look forward to your questions. And as always, thank you again, and I hope you have a great day.